Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Whether we are out riding with our friends and family or racing in extreme environments, we all need good tires. That's why I recommend GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp. Their products, which include XC Master, Mini Master, and Groundbuster 3, are what leading professionals in the ATV-UTV industry are using. You can get your tires at greenballtires.com or find them on Instagram as GBC Tires for further inquiries. Jacob Stevens, how are you, man?
I'm been good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, brother. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've seen the last at Prim. The weekend was pretty crazy with the Huevos Challenge and all that stuff going on, but it's good to see you.
Yeah, I missed you out there. I was counting on watching you go through the obstacles, and unfortunately at the end of the race, I had I made a mistake with some paperwork and was not able to stay.
Yeah.
For the end, but it's my fault, my mistake. I was a bummer because there were so many people I wanted to talk to, but live and learn.
Yeah.
I will not be making that mistake ever again.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, the big question is, and I've heard it through the grapevine, I've heard it from other people, and I have it myself because you and I haven't gotten to speak much. I've spoken to your father, which him and I are friends, and we just have normal conversations. If talking about ATVs all the time is normal, but you got injured. I really don't know a lot about it, and I'd like to know more.
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I don't know how it started. I don't really recall how I got the injury. All I remember was, my shoulder started, bugging me pain wise. And then, it just started, dislocating like with very minimal movements. I mean, I would, be working and, hanging sheetrock or, wiping grout off the floor or tiling or anything like that. And I just, reached the wrong way and it would just dislocate. So, as we, we're getting through the season, the first couple rounds, it didn't dislocate, didn't bother me. I didn't have any pain. And then all of a sudden, every single time I would ride, I don't know if it was the jerking motion or, the rough tracks or, anything like that. But, my shoulder just started popping out of its socket, regularly. And I don't think they were full dislocations. I think they were partials because I was able to just kind of rotate my shoulder or, grab my handlebar and push my shoulder forward and, it would pop back in. But, after it would dislocate during a race, it would just kind of like the pain was just too severe to, push the envelope. So, last season I struggled a lot with, getting through the motos and, making it 100% all the way through without, having any pain or anything like that. So I found out I got an MRI after the last round, which I don't know if it was a smart move to finish the year. I feel like it was just because, resumes and all that stuff. I felt like it was just smart to get through the year, figure out what was wrong with it, go from there. So I got an MRI. I figured out I have a partial tear in my labrum. And from all the dislocations, I have a lot of cartilage damage. And from, bone on bone impact from it dislocating, I have some stress fractures in both my shoulder, the knuckle of your shoulder and your scapula where they connect. So no surgery required, just kind of going through physical therapy. I've been doing physical therapy since the last race. And so hopefully we'll be back on the bike here soon.
Is it normal for that kind of injury to not have surgery?
The doctor told me pretty much that surgery is their last case scenario. I guess, ligament repairs on shoulders is very hit or miss in surgery. They're not always guaranteed to work. So they thought with how minimal the tear was that, if I could strengthen it back up, that it would heal on itself. I think the biggest problem with it never healing was that I was constantly dislocating it. So I never actually had a good amount of time to let it heal and strengthen it. So they're pretty confident that it'll be good to go here. Actually, I think I want to say within the next like 6 to 8 weeks, it should be back to normal.
When are they going to clear you to ride?
So I'm cleared to pretty much. They didn't really tell me I had to stop. They just kind of advised it. They cleared me to ride, recreationally, but I mean, better than anybody, that's not going to happen. I can't really just get on a quad and ride recreationally. That's not really a thing. So I'm cleared, but I don't know when they're going to give me the go ahead to race. They pretty much guaranteed me by summertime. So I'll be back on the quad after the break, guaranteed. My physical therapist said he had some hopes that I'd be back for maybe the last round or two before the break. But at that point, I don't know if I'll just, wait until after the break, get summer training in, race the last few rounds, get prepared for 2024, and then, going into next year 100% ready to go and ready to fight for a championship.
Well, there's other guys that have had shoulder injuries and it's taken them almost a year to come back from it. Logan Huff looks like he is more than 100%. His speed is up. It seems like he's coming back and he's firing on all cylinders. So
yep.
That's what they're hoping for you. What's the physical therapy like, and what's your training like to help strengthen everything?
So basically at the moment, the physical therapy it's a lot of like stabilization exercises, really focusing on the smaller muscles around your delt and your rotator cuff and, all that stuff. So I do a lot of band stuff and, single arm stuff at physical therapy. And then my physical therapist has me doing training wise is I just been doing a lot of like, I guess muscle endurance training strength wise. So, lightweight, high reps, trying to, grow the muscle, but not to a point where it's going to hinder myself in the future. So I've just been trying to, stay consistent in the gym, stay consistent lifting, strength training. And then come summertime, not going to necessarily stop strength training like I normally would to get ready for the season. But I'm just going to kind of mix in a lot more cardio and then, a few days a week of just strength training so I can keep, the muscles strong and, solid throughout the year.
So, I ask a lot of questions of a lot of the people that I talk to about training, and there's a lot of different theories and schools of thought. Strength training is something that I've been told, and there again, when I raced professionally, I was 240 pounds. Yeah, I was a fat ass because I didn't train, I didn't eat right,
Right.
but I was riding a big old 660 monster in the desert, and it pulled me around just fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how you do it, kids. Train, get yourself in shape, and do it right.
Right.
I still have to apologize to my sponsors. But I am under the impression that you can strength train while you're racing because it's developing muscles and strength that you need for your core and things like that. So you're not going to go train heavy the week of the race,
Right.
but you're still going to maintain a schedule through the whole year that keeps your body strong, because it's easy to lose some of that
Right.
when you race. I don't mean to ramble on, but you see some football players nowadays keep lifting even through the year because they lose too much by the end of the season.
Right. And that's pretty much my main goal. My training program before I mean, back east, I would, strength train for, the season would end in August. I would, strength train from the end of August all the way until January. And then, the training would transition back into the, sprint cardio training, which was just like real high intense, high heart rate, sprint style training. And that seemed to always work good for me in motocross. When I transitioned into the desert racing and, the longer races and all the endurance stuff, I think my main goal at the time, because I didn't ever really have time to get ready. I mean, I ended nationals and, the season ended in September the year I moved out here. I moved out here and went to the, Glen Helen race. And, then after that, you got a month after the season ends or a month and a half to get ready for round one. So I felt like I was behind, all these guys that are already out here been doing it for a long time. So my goal was to just kind of grind as much longevity cardio that I could to get to catch up, which I wouldn't say it was a bad thing. I wouldn't say it was a good thing. I think I could have mixed in a little bit more different things into my training, but I was just kind of, hard-headed at the time and thought that the only way I was going to be able to compete was to just, sit on a cycle bike for 2 hours or, Stairmaster for an hour and a half, row for, an hour, treadmill for a run for, an hour. That was just all I was doing was just really long cardio sessions. And I think it got me in pretty good shape, but I lost out on a lot of the muscles, and I was struggling with arm pump and stuff like that. So I'm gonna kind of revamp my program come this summer, be able to ride a lot more, be able to kind of change everything up of how I train in the gym, and I think it'll benefit a lot.
Yeah, I think changing it up would help you a lot. How is your strength in your shoulder now? And can you strength train like are you be able to do deadlifts and some of the heavier exercises?
Right. So yeah, I try to stay away from like bench press and stuff like that. It puts my shoulder in a real vulnerable position that it doesn't like pretty much the only position that it would dislocate in. So I stay away from heavy bench press. When I bench, I kind of stay with, lighter dumbbell bench because I feel like I can, control that a little bit more. I don't have to put my shoulder in an awkward position. But as far as strengthening goes, I haven't been doing a lot of deadlifts and heavy lifting. I've been kind of staying towards like the cable movements and, dumbbells, the machines, almost like assisted, not necessarily assisted, but like direct paths rather than free weights. The only free weights that I've been doing is dumbbell stuff. So I think as my shoulder gets a little bit stronger, I can transition into those heavier movements that, I think they have their benefits as well. But as of right now, my shoulder feels, I wouldn't say 100%, but it definitely feels a lot better than it did in November. I don't, feel like it bothers me as much. And, it's weird because I don't really have like stagnant pain in it. So I can't really tell like if it's getting better or if it's not. I can't really tell because I don't actually have stagnant pain in it. The pain would only come with those vulnerable positions. But as I'm, working and, spending my times in the gym, I can feel that my shoulder's getting stronger. I can kind of raise, weights. I've been getting a little, going up a little bit every week. And, so I think it's working out.
Has your physical therapist got you into like a stretching regimen as well?
So I see him every week, once a week, and he has me doing like stretches with bands, kind of like pulling my shoulder back, pulling it up, and stuff like that. So I do that every time I'm in the gym, at least once a day. And then when I'm there, he does, cupping therapy on me. He does acupuncture. He gives me full, shoulder muscular massages and so his recovery, that when I see him once a week, it kind of recovers my shoulder for the whole week. And then, I can get right back into it a day or two later.
Well, when I went to France to race in the Rendezvous 2 weeks after I dislocated and broke my shoulder, which I didn't know was broke, the doctor over there did the cupping and rocks and massage, and I mean, they just did so much, and it was unbelievable. The taping it when I was riding, and I mean, at that point, I was not having the dislocation problems, the chronic like IA do now,
Mm-hmm.
but I was also much thicker. My training regimen was more um, a body regiment of strength,
Right.
and there was endurance in there, but we were focused a lot on strength. And my trainer was one of the racers that raced in the pro class, and we were in pretty damn good shape. But and I think that's why my arm didn't bother me as bad, because there was so much muscle around it,
Right.
helping keep it in place to a point. And as I've gotten smaller and older, it's not
Yeah.
not fun. But
Yeah, and that was my biggest thing too, is I didn't want to, 10 years from now, I didn't want my shoulder to bother me. I didn't want it to hinder my career and, how I make my money and all this stuff. So I figured it was just, the smart thing to do to take a step back and let it get back to 100%.
too late, brother.
It is too late. My body hurts already. My whole
Hey,
body aches.
you know, what I tell people. My wife and daughter beat up on me a little bit because I don't go get the replacement surgery that would cure the pain, right? Well,
Mhm.
they say. Well, you know what? If you're not living with a little bit of pain, how do you know if you're alive?
That's true. That's
I
true.
mean, if it didn't hurt, it wouldn't be me.
That's right. That's right. If you ain't hurt, you ain't got nothing to complain about.
Well, I don't even want to complain about it. I just like, hey, it's just. I actually think that it's a motivator for me. You hurt a
Yeah.
little bit. Hey, you're hurting because you're lagging behind. Step
Right.
it up.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your training's going really well. Have you thought about doing any like mountain bike downhill stuff where you're putting pressure on your arms and in more of an aggressive riding position that would work the small muscles to help strengthen your shoulder?
As of right now, the physical therapist kind of told me to stay away from anything that requires me to use my arms. I think he wants to work our way into something like that eventually here soon. But as of right now, I'm kind of trying to stay away from anything that would, potentially dislocate it. I don't want to take the risk of dislocating it again after all of this training and work. And then, his mindset is if I dislocate it again, I kind of just go back to the beginning. And, I've been just trying to take it easy. I don't want to, I'd rather it take longer and me be 150% than me only be 92% and then go dislocate it and then I lose all my progress. So I'm just trying to take it slow. I'm listening to my physical trainer and, whenever he gives me the kind of the go ahead to, go test it out, see how it feels, I'm going to just kind of, I feel like the biggest test is just going to be getting on a quad and seeing how it feels. So I'll probably take it easy first couple times I ride, see how it feels and stuff like that.
You hear this, kids? Listen to the people that are professionals that know, so that you lengthen your career and take care of your body and make sure that when you're 50 years old, you're not broken like I am.
Yeah,
Okay. Listen to the doctor, listen to the professionals. They will take care of you and make sure that you do this correctly.
absolutely.
That's awesome that you're getting better. It's given you some time to reflect, I'm assuming. And most people don't want to bring this up. Most people don't even want to talk about it. How is the mental side of the injury, and how is it affecting you in your motivation to stay in shape and to keep working?
Yeah, no, at first, during the season last year, my mentality was terrible. It almost just felt like, what's the point? Like why do I show up? Why do I try? It was very, very defeating to go to every race and, just kind of show up with a defeated mentality. I just felt like I was at a disadvantage and, I struggled a lot with believing in myself and motivation wise. I just didn't feel motivated to work or, do anything like that. And, since the break, I've had a lot of time to, think about the future and think about what I want to do, and think about a lot of different things. And I think that I'm taking the positives of the break. I think that it's healthy to take a step away, overlook everything, come back with a stronger mindset, 100% mindset. I think being off a quad for as long as I have been gives me a little bit more motivation to get back on one. Gives me a little bit more excitement to start riding again, which I think I was lacking a little bit towards the end of last year. I didn't really feel excited to ride. I was, timid. I was scared to pop it out, and I didn't like the mentality I was in. So I think since the break, it's given me a good positive outlook on things, and I think it's just going to benefit me in the long run.
Have you spent time with anybody talking, your dad, a friend, somebody that's helping with your mental gains, to stay focused?
Yeah, my mom and dad are huge on trying to keep me positive. My dad's always doing research or figuring out this or that, trying to see what we can do to speed the process up, or what kind of vitamins and stuff like that I should be taking daily to regrow ligaments and stuff like that. So the fact that he's putting in the amount of research and work that I've been trying to do, it helps me mentally, that there's people a part of this program that want to win as bad as I do. And another person off the top of my head is Paul Turner, good friend of yours, great friend of mine. He's been doing a lot of work for me in the last couple of years, and I'm beyond thankful for his friendship and for what he does for my program. And we talk almost daily, and every time I talk to him, he's like, just keep put your head down, keep doing what you have to do, and you know things are going to work out. You'll be better and back to normal soon, and we can go win a championship. So I think having a good support group, family, friends that are behind me, still supporting me, all the sponsors that didn't walk away from me after the injury, everybody that stuck behind my back, it kind of lights a fire under my ass to get out there and do good.
So who are you?
Jacob Stevens.
No, you opened that one right up for me,
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you've had communication with all the sponsors, and that you have a good support system. Paul is a great guy.
Yeah.
And he's a special breed, and I think it takes special people to understand him. Not everybody can handle Paul. He's
No.
very enthusiastic,
Very.
and we could just call that lightly.
Yep.
Maybe he's on the extreme side, but he's a great dude.
Yeah, he's got a great heart, and I'm grateful to have him a part of my program. And at the end of the day, he's one of my best friends. And it's weird to say that dad, and he's got some kids of his own, and I'm only 25. I can call him family. So I'm happy to have somebody like him that wants to win as bad as I do.
Knowing Paul the way I do, you call him up, it's done.
Yeah, every time, no matter the time or day, or if he's got softball practice with his kids or anything like that, something, he's going to figure something out to make it happen. I mean, I couldn't tell you that. I'm sure better than a lot of people that are listening right now, but there was a lot of races last year that he does all my he builds all my motors, and we ship heads out to Duncan, and we're getting heads back, and the parts are coming in last minute. We're overnighting motors, and the Wednesday before we're leaving for the race, I'm putting a motor in the bike. There's been a lot of stressful weeks that he's stayed up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning putting a motor together for me, or build me a harness, or order me parts, or picking parts up for me, shipping parts out. I mean, he does so much on his end that you call him and he drops whatever he's doing and does it for you.
Exactly. And that's where the friendship thing comes in, and just his heart is in it as much as yours. And I'm assuming when you're training, you're thinking of that.
Yeah, every day. You got to think about the amount of work people are putting in for you, and I'm the one riding, so all this support and all the work that everybody's doing behind closed doors, I'm the only one that can showcase all that stuff. So definitely keeps me motivated to keep going.
That's awesome. I like to hear that. I also I didn't get a real in-depth conversation with your dad about this. You guys changed your setup going to the races and have more of a vending deal. Well, your dad, that's going to be your dad's thing when you're racing. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're doing the event shirts for all the works races, dirt bikes, quads, and side by sides. Um, that was a big deal. Randy had talked to my dad about needing another food vendor, and my dad kind of stepped up and said, he can cook, he's got the equipment. We'll sell the shirts. In the free time that we're don't have any people coming up to buy shirts, we'll be cooking and stuff like that. So we we kind of bit off a lot, and Prim was a big learning curve for I was there working, helping them out, and it was a big learning curve, but I think it worked out good. I think we had a really good weekend. Made a good amount of money, and everybody seemed to be happy with the shirts, the food. We making all the works apparel. We're selling it at the track. So, yeah, no, it's cool to have something else to go there for. Be there at the races, see everybody that you want to see. And even though I can't ride, everybody at the track supportive. Everybody came up to ask me how I was doing, and yeah, it was a really cool weekend.
Do you think that helped being there and being so busy? It was the distraction that made it okay for you?
Yeah, I think it didn't really sink in, the whole riding aspect until Saturday pro practice. I went up to the gate actually with Cody Stanford. I was standing up there talking to him. He's rookie, and he was a little nervous. So I was trying to calm him down, give him some pointers, help him out. And then after they all took off for practice, me sitting there watching them all, it sucked. It wasn't an ideal situation, but working, we started working at 6 a.m. every day, and we were working until 6 p.m. So it kept me busy. I didn't get to watch a lot of racing. um it was cool though. I had a good time, and I think at the end of the day, seeing those guys line up and gate drop and watching the race and stuff like that on Sunday, I think it made me just want to get out there even more.
A little bit of motivation.
Yeah, a
Huh?
little bit of motivation.
That's that's pretty awesome. So there's been a big rule change in the pro class.
Yep.
Um, everybody has an opinion on it. I'd like to hear yours. Basically,
Yeah. The hybrid rule change, they're allowing hybrids in the pro class at works. And I have mixed feelings about it. I think when we're talking, motocross and, the knowledge that I have from the hybrids back east, they're expensive, and they're hard to maintain. The benefit of them is they're easier to maintain than a production bike. The motors are a little bit more solid. They're a little bit more bulletproof. You could pack a ton of horsepower in them and still get a good amount of hours out of them. I was a little worried at first when they dropped the rule. I was a little worried for the people that, could go out and get one, could put one in, dumping a bunch of money in a motor, having a rocket ship. But then again, we're out there for 90 minutes. You can't have a rocket ship and hold on to it for 90 minutes. I mean, that's a challenge even for, a rider like Bo or Travis or any of those guys. You got to have a happy medium of power and endurance. So, I don't think it's going to be a make or break for this class. Bo, obviously he did what Bo does. He went out and he won, but regardless, hybrid or production bike, I think he would have went out and done the same thing. Roberto Villalobos has one too, and you know he looked fast in practice, and he took off. He did a couple practice starts, and the bike rips. But I talked to him, and he was saying that it's a lot to hold on to. It's very sharp and wants to rip out of your hands. So I don't know. Maybe there's some tuning and some work that they could do to him to make him a little better for the desert side. But I I was a little unhappy about it at first, but sitting back thinking about everything and what we do at works and stuff like that, I don't think it's going to be a big advantage. I don't think everybody's going to need one. I think we'll be able to compete on production bikes versus them.
That's a pretty good take on it. The exactly what Roberto said is the big reason that I'm worried about it, because it doesn't work the same as a production Honda.
Right.
So we're talking on the two machines that were hybrids, were Hondas, CRF motors in Honda 450 chassis.
Right.
I know Doug Roll is doing his best to fine tune the suspension for both of those guys.
Yeah, but even Bo was telling me about the motor mounts. They're solid, they're thick, so there's not a lot of flex in it. It puts a lot of more tension on the frame, and I don't know. 90 minutes is a long time. I've seen a lot of kids back east be very successful on hybrids and motocross, but I mean we're talking 5 to 15-minute motos in motocross versus 90 minutes of a bike taking a brutal beating.
But you also look at, and this is where it gets competitive and gets even, is you're also having people in the Pro-Am class, which is your premier amateur transition class, on factory Yamahas winning the championship and winning races and doing well against the hybrids. And then there's kids on the hybrids that are also winning.
Yeah.
So, you have a good mix back there of factory versus hybrid, and the hybrid doesn't always win.
Right. And they have their pros and cons to hybrids. Everybody says they're torque monsters. They want to rip the bars out of your hands, and production bikes are a little bit more tame. And I don't think that the hybrids have more top speed. I don't think there's a ton different horsepower. I mean, us riders, we can only hold on to so much horsepower regardless. So it doesn't matter if you put, somebody walks up to me and says they got 70 horsepower in a quad. I would probably look at them and laugh that, they're going to get their kid or whoever they are hurt, So I think the only biggest benefit to them, I think, is the torque and, how long the motors can last with the amount of power that they have. You build a TRX motor for nationals. I mean, you saw how many TRX motors, all these pros are going through out back east. I mean, one of my best friend, Wesley Wolf, actually before he started riding for Johnny, those motors just, they're not bulletproof. They're old, the technology's just not there. And there's just a lot of issues with them. And I think the hybrids just have that little bit of a stronger motor. They last a little bit longer, a little bit more reliable and with the power in them.
I think the engine is definitely more reliable, and it's evolved. They have made, they came out with that motor that's in the production Hondas in 06.
Yeah.
And it really hasn't changed much.
Right.
There's a few changes, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I get it. I totally get why. I'm just worried about the cost of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get crate motors for dirt bikes, and you got to know somebody to get a crate motor, and you got to buy a dirt bike to do it. You got to go spend $9,000 just to pull the motor and electronics out of it and put it in a four-wheeler. So it's an expensive startup. I know, a good couple of friends back east that rode hybrids on 250s, transitioned into 450s. They bought two dirt bikes back in 2019, and I know a good friend of mine, he would pull the motor out, he'd put it back in the dirt bike, he'd take the dirt bike to the dealership, he'd trade the dirt bike in and buy a brand new one every year. And it wasn't a crazy expense. The original, or the beginning of it was the big expense. And then I feel like after you have the motors and you have the electronics, I don't think it's much more expensive than a production bike maintenance wise. It's just the startup is expensive.
But you go from a pro level build, $28,000, to 40, maybe more, maybe a little less, but you might save a little bit on one engine rebuild, maybe
Yeah.
two if you're lucky during the year, but
Yeah,
you're
but and then
still.
these pros, and like that's why like the argument, back east was um, the advantage of them, and the people that couldn't afford them, and it was always an argument in the pro meetings at the banquets, and I sat in a couple of them, and everybody kind of goes back and forth about it, and the biggest meeting was back when Joel was on Hondas, and he built that hybrid for the overseas race, and he loved it, and they were trying to push it for the pro class. There were some pros that couldn't afford it. Chad was on factory, Yamaha, he couldn't do it even if he wanted to, and there was just a lot of back and forth. I feel like for the pro class, it's a tough decision, because they're going to rebuild those motors every freaking race anyway. What's the benefit here that we're getting out of them, that a motor can last you 30 hours? We're not, none of those pro guys are putting 30 hours on a motor, and in the race bike at least. And if you wanted to put one in your practice bike and practice on one, you're allowed to do that, so.
Yeah, and in the West Coast side of it, Bo's conversation with me was, it's more reliable. I'm not going to be running super expensive fuel, and I'm going to rebuild the engine less.
Yeah, and he's 100% right. He's definitely correct on that end. I feel like it's all testing at the moment, because this is his first hybrid. He doesn't really know what to expect. I talked to him at Prim, and he was a little skeptical about how he felt on it. But I mean, he obviously rode well on it. He went out and won. So I think it'll be a learning curve for him. I think it makes it a little bit more interesting. He's been used to the same bike, same motor program, same everything for how many years now. So I think it keeps it a little interesting for him, having something new and something to learn and test on. So it's cool to see him with the drive to try to make something work out of it.
And the rookie got the whole shot.
Ripped the whole shot. That was a cool whole shot.
Just drove away from him.
Yeah, he was 3-4 bike lengths before anybody into the corner.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, he was gone. That flag went, and his bike was started up faster than anyone's, and he was gone.
So did the hybrids start fast, or did they start slow?
No, Roberto and Bo came out pretty far back. There. I mean, I don't know how much Bo was practicing the dead starts with the electric start. He's still used to a kicker, so I could imagine that that's a big learning curve for him. It's a lot different than the kicker, because Bo's been doing dead starts with a kickstart for a long time, and he's just got the feeling for it. He knows how to kick it one time, turn it over, and go. He's confident in one kick. With the electric start, at least for me, it's a little hard to know that the bike started, because everybody else is starting around you, and you can't hear the bike start. So you have to feel it start. So I don't know, it's tough. The dead starts are tough regardless of what you're on, but I think that it's new for both of them, because they both were kickstarts last year. So I don't know if it was the hybrid itself. I know that they got pretty powerful batteries in there, and they start up pretty quick. I think it's just a learning curve for both of them.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. I would have to agree to that. You saw Travis Damon come out on a Yamaha, and
Yep.
I mean, he finished in second. He was finishing second on his Honda.
Yep.
So there's not much change there, other than how did he look on it?
He looked good. I talked to him. He said the same thing everybody says when they ride a Yamaha, that you feel slower, but you're not going slower, So I think he looked great. He looked great in practice. He led a good handful of laps in the race, and I think Bo is just, I mean, we're talking about Bo Barron here, he's he's a 10-time champ for a reason, you know what I mean? So I think he looked good. I think I never really got to watch these guys race. Ever since I've been out here, I've been racing against them, so it's hard to compare what he looked like on a Honda, because I never really witnessed him ride a Honda. Now I was always riding with him, or in the race with him, or on the track at the same time with him. So I think he looked good. He looked solid. He looked like he was comfortable, which is tough to do, because he just got on it, right after the season ended. So yeah, he seems pretty positive about the switch.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing was he rode a fuel injected motorcycle
Yeah.
and then transitioned to the four wheeler that was fuel injection. So he probably had a good idea how that feel was going to be. It's a little bit different motor design,
Right.
but they still work similar.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. But he looked good. He looked solid. I mean, he made the pass into first pretty early in the race, and then Bo ended up. I think he started in like fifth. I want to say he ended up just kind of putting his head down and charging as Bo does, and worked his way up front.
Really, and it took him a couple laps to get Damon.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say Damon led for my guess would be about 4 laps. He led.
Really, that's
Yeah. Yeah. They had a good
you know
battle going on there for a little bit. It's cool to watch.
that probably was Bo trying to get used to the machine too, because he doesn't have many hours or much time on it as well.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And he looked a little uncomfortable in practice, if I mean, at least with what I was seeing. Um, like I said, I didn't get to really watch these guys ride much, but he didn't look super comfortable in practice. I think he looked super comfortable towards the end of the race. So I think, yeah, it was just getting comfortable, used to the bike and how it rode. So, might have taken him a little bit to get up and going at his normal speed, but he obviously transitioned fairly well and made it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him not to win. I did expect the other hybrid to be farther up the field.
I agree. I thought so too. The pro sections were crazy, dude. Like huge tires, rock garden, logs. From what I didn't get to watch much of it. But I was talking to some of the guys in the mechanics area. Kenny and Braxton's dad, and a lot of these guys were getting stuck in the pro section. So getting through that pro section is always key to get through it smooth at every race. I feel like it's a make or break section sometimes, depending on how crazy it was. And Prim is always one of those gnarly ones that the obstacles are big, they're tough, and they're make or break obstacles. You could get stuck on one for multiple minutes, and that's hard to come back from. So I want to say Braxton had got stuck somewhere. That's how he lost the lead. I believe that's how he lost the lead, and then a lot of the people were getting stuck in him. So yeah, it was an interesting race. I feel like Travis and Bo are the best in our class at those obstacles. So they obviously shined out there this past weekend. But how about Braxton Gross with a podium finish in his rookie race? That was phenomenal. That was pretty cool to see.
Exactly. I mean, I texted him that night, and I said, "Welcome to the bigs," and he said something about racing with the big guys or something like that. And I go, "You are one."
How he is one.
Yeah, you are one, dude. You're just standing on the podium
next to him.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
you are one. And at that point, I hadn't seen that he had gotten the whole shot, because getting any information unless you talk to somebody is almost impossible.
Yeah.
It doesn't post very fast for some reason on the West Coast. You can find information out about an XC race, 30 seconds after the first guy crosses the finish line.
Yeah.
Or a motocross race, you can get it almost immediately as well. But for some reason, the works information just does not get out.
Yeah, it takes a little bit for that stuff to get out here. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
he
I
looked
don't
great.
know why.
The kid was on fire. He looked great. He rode great. He was very confident and comfortable. He didn't really, his nerves didn't show, I feel like. I talked to him before the race. He said he was a little nervous going out there, which as everybody should be. It's a big step. But he performed as if there was no nerves. He went out there and did his thing, and it paid off.
He looks like he's a head taller too.
He does. He's a little bit bigger now. He's growing up. He's a kid still. That's crazy to see.
He's still a baby. I mean,
Yeah, he's got a lot of years left in him.
Yeah, I think he's a sophomore or a junior in high school.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's just incredible that he's that young, and he could build a super long dynasty career. Out of it. You figure Bo's 42 and Braxton's freaking 16.
16. Yeah.
Yeah, think about the years that he could put in there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I mean, I almost have 10 years on the kid, which is for me being as, only 25, it's crazy to say that I'm racing against somebody that's 10 years younger than me. And he's a ripper. He rides great.
his maturity is what I like. His maturity
Yeah.
on the machine is incredible. Granted, you can talk to him off the track and realize that he has age,
Yeah.
and that's nothing. No slight against him
Right. I
because
mean,
that's
he's
how old
teenager.
he is.
Yeah, he's a teenager. So yeah, no, he's humble. He's a humble kid. He knows what he can do. And he just does his thing. He works hard. I got to give him all the credit in the world for going out there and putting the nerves aside and performing for everybody.
His dad puts a lot into that program, and so does his
Yeah.
mom.
His dad was so happy. I remember going over there after the whole shot, and his dad, big old smile on his face. And then I didn't get to talk to his dad after the race, but I could see him running over to the podium after he got off the track, running over to the finish line after he got off the track. So it's cool to see.
Oh yeah, your biggest fans are your parents, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, you get to spend time with your dad, and every time we're on the phone, all he does is brag about you.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd be
know.
at dinner and he'll be showing people videos, the waitress and stuff.
Well, I mean, like I said, he's your number one fan, and that's
Yeah.
what dads do. I mean,
Yeah.
I love talking about my son. I
Yeah,
mean,
of
there are
course.
sons.
Yeah, of course.
It's a lot of fun, and some people go, "Well, you're living through your kids." No, I'm not living through my kids because I'm letting them do what they want to do,
Right.
and I'm just happy they're doing it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to get in and dictate to them how to do it, or too much. When Danny Ray was racing, I probably should have pushed a little bit in certain places, and I didn't, because I wanted it to be fun and about him. He was under a huge deficit because I was still Doug Eichner's mechanic.
Right.
And he called Uncle Doug. And then when Doug and I parted ways, it was even harder for Danny. His last name was Duncan, and he had these huge shoes to fill, and everybody expected him to be something that he really wasn't.
Yeah.
He was a kid out there wanting to have fun, and he raced for a while and then decided that taking his future into the military was the best thing. But some bad things happened, but it worked out for him in the end. He's a college professor now and works in a hospital, has 3 beautiful children, and
it's amazing. Sometimes stuff just doesn't work out and then ends up benefiting you in the long run.
Well, like I told somebody the other night, you want to know the funniest thing in the world you can do? Tell God your plan.
Yeah, there's none.
Yeah, wait a minute, that's not the plan I had for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're gonna go this way.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna go that way. Or I like that plan. You can do it. There's a few people that get to pull it off. So it's gonna be what it's gonna be. Watching that pro class and getting a bird's eye view of what you've seen with all the racing that you've gotten to see throughout the years, do you think we could see a change on the top of the box at some point during the year?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. I think Travis, I think he has the speed and he has the skill to take Bo's spot away. Obviously he showed last year that he got a first last year, and that may have been a little bit because of what I did at that race, but yeah, no, I think Bo's got the speed. I think a lot of these guys, they have the speed, but Bo, his biggest strength, and I think that obviously he's fast. We all know he's fast, but he's just consistent, man. He doesn't make mistakes, and it is very difficult to go out there for 90 minutes and ride at such a fast pace and not make any mistakes. So I think, there's a couple guys in the class that I think have potential to take that spot away from him, but it's just all about making, you know, a very fast, smooth, clean race without any mistakes. And I think Bo just goes out there and doesn't make mistakes. And that's why he is, the 10-time champ. He just has such a smooth rhythm when he's on the quad that, a bobble here, a bobble there, it's not a mistake in him. And, I go out there and I blow a berm, or, you get stuck in the rocks, or, you know, you hit a pothole wrong, kicks you sideways, kind of takes the wind out of you. He's just so mature and knows exactly what to expect all the time. And, that's why he is the way he is.
He's super smooth.
He's just good. There's no other way to describe it than he's just good. He's good.
Well, if you look at it from my perspective, I got to watch the guy for years and years.
Right.
Bo is super fast, but Bo doesn't look. Bo doesn't look.
Yeah,
super fast.
He doesn't look fast. Like he's like a Chad. I mean, I'd say this about Chad. He doesn't look like, when you watch Joel ride, or you watch, Brennan Hogue, or Wesley Wolf, or Jeffrey Estrelli. They look like they're going fast. They look like, wow, they're flying. But you watch Chad, and he's just like, man, he doesn't look like he's going that fast. And he comes around for qualifying, he's got the fastest lap in qualifying. The Bo's the same way. He doesn't look like he's riding fast, but he is fast. Very, very fast.
You never got to see Sloan ride at that level.
I mean, racing with Sloan, he was like that. You could see that he was going fast. You could see him.
I remember we were in Utah racing an Iron Mine, and Bo's core section through his line through this one section almost created no dust. And Mike would go through this section, and you'd see these big swirl roost coming off of his machine, photo op. I mean, the photo ops were just awesome. Right. And dust cloud and dirt going everywhere. And, you just know that he's going faster. And unfortunately, Bo was just eking his way away, second by second, turn by turn. And you can't take anything away from Mike. He was hauling ass, but yeah, his line choice and that, big roost through the turns, Bo had a straight line through the turn. And people are thinking, how do you have a straight line through the turn? Shortest distance.
Yeah.
And he could drive through the turns.
And then I feel like this endurance stuff, the long desert racing, it all just comes down to who can be the most consistent. Because I mean, the laps are long. I mean, think about, when I think about an MX lap, and when you're a second off a lap, I feel like that's on a motocross track, that's a lot, because you only have so much track to work with. And when we race in these laps that are 10, 11 minutes long, and there's 65 corners on it, you could lose a half a second in each corner, and that's 20 some plus seconds a lap. So like it's so difficult to stay at a consistent speed, hitting each and every corner and section the exact same way. And Bo is just, he's perfect.
Well, he's relaxed and he's calm, and he never overextends, even though he's going that fast.
Right.
And I think that youth, in your case or in some of the other guys' cases, you're seeing that and you're striving to go faster. So you're pushing the envelopes instead of rolling into a relaxed pace, relaxed high pace, and just get your rhythm. And that's what Bo does. He just gets his rhythm. Even if he's not in the lead, he knows that I'm going to get in my place. I'm going to ride my race, and I will make the pass, and I will get out front.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like Doug Eichner's days. I remember seeing Doug as he transitioned through the years from Mickey's to the Nationals, motocross TT stuff. And he was confident and he was fast and he tried real hard. But as he got older, that man strength, the toughness that he had, and we get to these long races, he knew going to the starting line, he was the baddest man there, and nobody was going to beat him. He never got out of control. He didn't lose his patience. I mean, a couple times he did at the end of his deal, because there was extenuating circumstances that not everybody knows, personally. But we don't want to. That's not for us to talk about.
Right.
But it was an unfortunate situation for him.
Yeah.
But during his heyday, and he was in his 40s, he won his first works title at 39 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Doug almost retired when he was almost 50.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
And he's still running in the top 5 in works,
Yeah.
If he wouldn't have been riding that damn Polaris,
Yeah.
he might have been in the top 2, top 3, who knows?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's nice to go down memory lane. I would love to be able to get a time machine and to get our like 20 favorites and put them on the line for a couple works races, put them on a line for a couple motocross races, put them on the line for a couple TT races, and
that would
take
be
them
epic.
Take them to the woods and take them to the desert, and oh man, just to see how all these champions would do head to head with one another.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Obviously, most likely impossible, but that would be crazy. All the best of the best going at it would be cool to see.
Oh yeah, it's at their peak, when they were the best they were.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it would be awesome. Could you imagine seeing Jeremiah Jones, Doug Gust,
Dustin Wimmer,
Natalie,
Joe Bird, Josh Kramer, all these guys at their peak. Yeah, no, it would be legendary race.
Oh, dude, you got Joel and Doug and Josh Fredericks. I mean, you got some of these guys on the West Coast that are just animals in this long distance endurance stuff. That I'm afraid that the motocross guys, they're fast, and Joel proved that coming out, and so did Walker Fowler.
Yeah, but Walker was breathtaking to ride with. To be honest with you, man, that guy can ride.
You have to think about it this way also. He's super smart. Mark Notman came out the year before, instantly relayed the information to Walker. If we're going to do this, we have to do this, and this. And they tested, they had a suspension, they had a pretty good combination. And like Walker said, he needed some more time to do some more testing to make it even better. But he had a good package, which, I mean, you got a talent like that, and you give him some seat time and some schooling. Oh boy, look out!
Yeah, no, I agree. He looked great. He was, like I said, I never got to ride with Walker back east. He's a woods guy, but riding with him was pretty cool.
Yeah, and John Galata Jr. kid did really well also.
Oh yeah, Galata was ripping.
Yeah, I was super impressed with what we were getting to watch. How about Lindquist, dude? You see his hands after the race?
Yeah, he's a beast, dude. He has been a beast since I can remember. I remember watching him on 90 mods. The kid was he's just different. He's just a beast. He rides phenomenally. He's smart. He knew what he was getting himself into, and he's got a never quit attitude. And he rode great at Prim. Great.
You think about it, and you think about these animals, that just never stop, like a honey badger or, a pit bull, which one is he?
All the above.
When you're down to that war, who do you want to be against? When you're warring, Max is not the guy, because he's not going to stop.
Not going to stop. And he's another one that just, when you watch him ride, it's effortless. He looks like he's just out there on a Sunday cruise, and he's just going faster than most people are.
How blessed are we that the up and coming class of riders is young?
Yeah.
I mean, you're still 25, you're still young, you're still in the mix,
Yeah.
and think of some of the talent that we get to watch. I mean, I get to watch, you get to race with,
Yeah.
you know, it's incredible. I'm just freaking so stoked that the ATV industry, people, oh, it's dying, it's this. No, it's not. It's thriving in so many different ways.
Yeah. I agree. The young kids taking a step and getting into these pro classes. I mean, we all saw what specifically Max Lindquist and, a Bryce Ford and a Brandon Hogue did in the pro class. Wesley Wolf, all these guys did in a pro class at such a young age. I mean, Joel was young going into the pro class. All these guys were, like they're young. They're younger than me, younger than, look at Braxton Gross. I mean, 16-year-old in a pro class got his first podium in his first pro class race. I mean, that's just like, that doesn't happen to just any 16-year-old, So
Right.
it's cool to watch these younger kids, move their way up and compete with us and it's crazy to see.
Day one. Still
Yeah.
got he's basically still got diapers on and he's out there running with the pros.
Yeah, I mean, when I was racing A class, Braxton was probably on a 250 Raptor. And now we're racing pro together and he's podiuming, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's crazy to see these kids go from being children to racing pro class, So
It is, isn't it?
yeah.
I know you're still a baby, but think
Yeah.
about it from my aspect. I remember going to the races and Alex Ortiz was just a little kid.
Yeah.
He's a pro.
Yeah.
He's a grown man with a girlfriend and a life and I'm just shaking my head looking because I just remember this little kid. I still think the little kid.
Yeah.
And I have to like shake my head a little bit. Wow, he's a freaking pro. He's
Yeah.
a grown man.
I mean, shit, when I started riding for the Fords, back in the day, Bryce was, God, I want to say 14, maybe not 13, 14. I mean, he was just getting on a 250, a 250. And, he was a fast back in the day on the 250, but, seeing him go from, being so young, we would go to his basketball games in high school and all these things. And he's competing at a crazy high level. So yeah, no, it's cool to see these kids when they were kids and now them older. I mean, I am still young, but I feel like I got to still be able to witness, young kids, work their way through all the classes and watch them grow. And it's cool. It's cool to see.
Let me tell you, brother, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Until I see when I'm now and, when I'm 30 racing still and, there's another 16-year-old coming in the class and think about that. He's 10 right now. You know what I mean? Who is it? So, yeah.
Well, I remember going to the Nationals back east and Angela Moore was this little girl playing in the freaking creek. And it turns out that she was one of the most dominating women motocross champions in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
And I knew her before she became a mom. I haven't talked to her in years and years, but that woman is incredibly fast. And, it's hard not to remember that, I remember seeing her when she was just a little kid, like my children off playing in that creek, and you're just scratching your head like, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm getting old, but, I'm not going to slow down. Before we close this out, I want to get some predictions from you. I know you know a lot of know some of the cross country guys.
Right.
There's been a change in champion in 2022. Walker Fowler seems to be fired up.
Yeah.
Bryson Neal is just not going to move over.
Nope.
You have 5 or 6 fire-breathing dragons behind them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that's all going to shake up?
Oh man, I mean, it puts up for good racing, good watching, good spectating. So, I don't know, man. Walker Fowler is, he might have been dethroned last season, but he's a multi-year champion for a reason, and he knows exactly what he needs to do to compete. Bryson is very good at this time in his career, and I think he's only getting better. But then again, I think Walker's still getting better. I mean, same thing about, the Chad and Joel rivalry. You can't just give it to Joel, you can't just, this
We'll go there.
season,
We'll go
right?
there.
So, with the Walker thing, you can't just give it to Bryson. I think he's going to be there. I think it's going to be a battle all year long, but I think Walker knows what he needs to do, and I think he's going to work on it. So I don't know. I couldn't pick one, but it's gonna. In my opinion, it's gonna be one of those two winning a championship this year.
I haven't got to talk to Bryson Neal. I would love to be able to pick his brain and see, the expressions on his face as you ask questions and get a feel for him as an individual. I've been able to spend a little bit of time with Walker and get to know him a little bit, and he is a fierce competitor.
Yeah.
For being such a mild, non-arrogant 7-time champion. Super nice guy, soft-spoken, and I just think of that old adage, speak softly and carry a big stick. I that's how I picture Walker. He's just inside, he has just a raging monster in there wanting to get out, and and I think Bryson Neal is just a strong kid because he came off the couch and won.
Yeah.
From injury to winning, that's what I really want to talk about, because that just doesn't happen at that level.
No, it's tough to do. It is tough to do, and I think he proved a lot of people wrong, getting off the couch and going out and winning a championship. And obviously for him, motivation's high. His work ethic is probably out of this world at the moment. He's off of a win. How could you not be stoked out of your mind to train and get better and go out and compete again? So, I mean, it's gonna be a good year for them boys out east, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
You look at your sophomore deal, that to win that second championship in a row is harder than winning the first, because usually you're having to deal with all of the changes because you're number one. The media, the accolades, the people patting you on the back, maybe you missed a train, maybe you missed the training a couple times, maybe you didn't go test, because you were getting your back patted. I don't know this about Bryson. I'm just saying that
right.
This has been the downfall to riders in the past. So
yeah, no, for sure. And I hope he's handling it well, and to have a competitor like Walker Fowler, as fierce of a competitor he is, he knew exactly what he needed to do to get better. So I'm sure he's working on that every single day to go out and win a championship this year. So we'll see.
So let's get to your favorite. Pro motocross, Joel Hetrick, Chad Wienen. We already know the fierce battles that these guys have had. In 11 years, we've had 2 champions. And not really a lot of mix on the podium. Those 2 guys have been on there almost every time in the last 11 years. First or second, maybe a third thrown in there, but they're still there. I want to talk about the 6 or 7 riders, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, that are the guys that will take 3, maybe 4 of them, 5 of them. Any one of them could be third, but I'm thinking that the gap is closing and any one of them could be first.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, I don't know. Joel and Chad are they're just on another level. And I mean, Bryce and Brandon and Max and Jeffrey and Janusa and Decker and Wolf, and there's so many riders that have the speed, but man, when those guys get into a race mode, they take off. I mean, they're going from qualifying speeds to getting faster throughout the race, and it's going to be that's going to be a tough. I mean, it's like dethroning Bo Barron. It's going to be a hard, long journey to get one of those two taken off that top step. And you know, if I had to make a prediction, my guess would be that it's going to be Joel or Chad on that top step at the end of the year this year. And, you know, I really hope that, you know, some of these riders, you know, I know a lot of these riders are working their butt off, you know, down at Decker Training Facility. I see, you know, Brandon Hoag's down there a lot, you know, Max is in Florida. Jeffrey, you know, he's never stops. Janus is in Jersey in the freezing cold, riding every day, you know. So I hope one of these guys can you know, mix it up front this year. You know, I'm rooting for a lot of them back there to get up in the mix. You know, we've been seeing Chad and Joel win for, I mean, I've been watching them win since 2012. So it'd be cool to watch some new faces on the top of the box. So I'm rooting for everybody that's working their butt off back there to mix it up with them.
You are politically correct, and don't give me an answer, but I get why.
It's hard. I'm friends with a lot of them. You know, I don't want to. You know, I don't want to pick someone, and then, you know, I don't want to get involved in that. So, you know, everybody's, you know.
I'm telling you straight up right now, there is going to be a new guy standing on the top of the box in that motocross series this year. I felt it was going to be last year, and Brandon Hoag almost did it in round one. I just have seen some things and talked to these guys for the last couple years, and the development that you see in them, you know, Nick Janus's videos, his attitude, the things he went through last year, whole new guy, in my opinion. Just
100%.
watching what I've watched. I haven't even got to talk to him, you know.
Yeah.
Jeffrey is going to be more solid this year because he transitioned to his own thing last year. So that may have knocked him off his access a little bit.
Yeah.
He's a seasoned pro.
Yeah. And he's fast. I mean, he's always right there with the speed and qualifying, you know, and I think his struggle has been, you know, putting two motos together, consistent laps, you know. And I think when Jeffrey is on that consistent two motos, consistent laps, he's you know, he's a vet. He's going to be up there. He's going to be running up front. So yeah, I think that I do believe that this is the year that one of them will be dethroned off of a podium spot or a number one spot. I do believe that, you know, Brandon Hoag can win a race. I believe that Ford can win a race. I believe that Lindquist can win a race. Jeffrey, Janusa, you know, all these guys can win. You know, it's just going to be all about, you know, the consistency, and that's going to be the hardest thing to beat for those top two guys is how consistent and strong they are when they're racing. And if, you know, one of those guys hopefully can, you know, put two motos strong together and come out on top, I think it would be cool to see.
I think for the sport, it would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last person that had won an overall besides Joel or Chad was Thomas Brown, if I'm mistaken.
That's probably correct.
I think it was Thomas Brown, you know, and so that was, you know, he's been retired a couple of years now. So it's been a while since we've seen a new face on the top of the box.
That's ancient history.
Yeah.
So it's going to be great. It's going to be an awesome year to watch from works to some of the stuff in the desert that I'm getting privy to see, to the motocross and the cross country. And there's other things going on. The WMX is going to be pretty awesome this year. You know, you have the works lady pros that, you know, they've a few new ladies in that class. So I think that's going to be good. Matisich is super fast comparative. But anything's possible. Anything can happen. And then you have the lady pros in XC, Hannah Hunter. Dude, that chick can ride.
Yeah.
I'm glad I never got to race against her because she smoked my ass.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah. So it's there's so many good riders now. You know, let's jump into you got the XC 4x4 guys too. Those guys.
Yeah. Rip.
Man. Yeah.
Rip.
Dude.
On those 4x4s, that's crazy that they ride so fast on those things.
Exactly. I mean,
Crazy.
I'm super impressed with all of it. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I love the industry. I love the sport. And I love all forms of it. We didn't even get into the TT guys. Sorry about that. We'll make up for it on the live and on Instagram. How's that?
The team here at ATV Talk would love your feedback. Please email us at hello@atvtalkpodcast.com. If you're in need of a consultation for your current racing program, a custom ATV, or an industry guest speaker, I have the company for you. Duncan Technologies International Inc. offers host, MC, and guest speaking services at events. Builds custom ATVs for recreational riding or racing around the world. And they offer consulting services for professional teams or individual racers. Send inquiries to duncantechinternational@gmail.com or call 619-716-1532 for more information. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV Talk Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.